Hey guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin'. Today, we're talking spy baits. Everything you need to know to fish a spy bait effectively for bass. I have been promising to take an in-depth look at spy baits with you guys for a long time. The spy bait is such a misunderstood and underutilized bait. Sure, there are plenty of lures that are sort of niche things that don't get a lot of coverage, but the spy bait is not one of those. The spy bait is incredibly effective in a lot of different situations. It's a proven fish catcher. It's a big bass catcher, but the vast majority of anglers are not using it and don't understand how to use it, which is amazing because once I walk you through this, it is so simple. Anyone can catch them on a spy bait. If you can turn a handle on a reel, you can make these work for you. They're just underutilized. That's all there is to it. I take my spy bait fishing very seriously. This is my spy bait box. Even with all these baits out on the deck, this box is loaded down. Different sizes, different shapes, different colors. I use a lot of different spy baits in different situations. Now, with that said, there's three, we're gonna call them core baits that I use. And then there's a bunch of outliers from there that I use for different situations. But spy baiting as a whole, let's begin there. What is it? I'm gonna grab the biggest one here just because it's easier to demonstrate with. This is a straight retrieve bait. So what I mean by that is similar to a crankbait, a spinnerbait. Now granted, all those baits are things that we stop and twitch and pop and work. And I do a little bit of that with the spy bait, but for the most part, it's throw it out, get to your desired depth, and then just slow reel it back to the boat. So as it's coming through the water, this bait sinks. And as it's coming through the water, when you're reeling, these two props, front and back, are spinning. And while that doesn't seem like much here out of the water, I assure you in the water, it is a crazy amount of ruckus. There is a lot of sound and a lot of vibration coming off of those two blades. And then in addition to that, the body rocks as it's coming through the water. Okay, it's got a little bit of body wobble to it. So that's the secondary action. So the primary is just those blades churning up, sending out vibration, sending out flash, and then the rest is that body wobble. It's really that easy. Throw it out, count it down, start reeling. Now, I mentioned that sometimes I will twitch it and pop it and work it, but it's very little. What I'll find is that if I have a lot of fish coming all the way to the boat but never biting, then I'll mix in 2 or 3 times during retrieve. I'll be winding and I just give it a little reel bump is all I do. Because all that's gonna do is cause us to just speed up a little. It doesn't even look good to my eye, but the amount of fish that I've suddenly had tag it right after I give it the reel bump, that's enough that I mix that in, because there are a lot of times if I'm getting those long track followers, right? I see them way out there and they just stay with it, and then bail off. A lot of times that little boop, that's all it takes to get one to commit. So this bait, what makes it special is 2-part. One is its ability to cover water. I can cover incredible amounts of water with a spy bait. They cast like a dream. So, I mean, you get up on a flat and you want to know if there's fish there, you can throw it farther than almost anything else you own, and you're just winding. So the amount of water that you can knock down in a day when you're searching for fish is amazing. But the biggest thing that sets it apart is just the caliber of fish that eat it. And talking about that, I can't even put a finger on why. And I'm not going to pretend that I can. I'm not going to tell you this bait has this certain motion that just gets bigger fish to bite. I just know from experience that big fish eat the spy bait. So whatever that it factor is, whatever it is, the little thing that causes those fish to lash out and commit, it's got it. And as a result, it plays a major part in my arsenal, and it should be in yours too. So let's start out simplifying this thing. I have 3 core baits, and really 2 of them are the same bait, they're just different sizes. So spy baits come in some different shapes, different sizes. You know, a handful of brands make really good options, but at the core of it, you've got Duo Realis. Duo Realis makes the spinbait series. So that's going to be the spinbait 70, which is newer, the spinbait 80, the spinbait 90, and the spinbait 100, okay? At the core of spybait fishing is this spinbait. And for me, at the core is the 80 size. Now, the 70 is new. That is a recent release at iCast. That one crushes too. We'll come back to that in just a second. But prior to that release, for me, it's been all about the 80. Now the 80 comes in 2 different weights. And here's the deal with spybaiting. You can fish these super shallow. You can fish them deep. You can fish for fish that are on the bottom. You can parallel bluff walls. You can count it down and ledge fish with it. You can count it down over humps and reservoirs. There's a lot of things that you can do with them. But my bread and butter way to fish a spybait, like if you just stopped me in my tracks in a hallway and said, hey, where's the #1 place that you would throw a spybait? For me, it's fan casting flats in like 3 to 8 feet of water. Man, I enjoy that. Just covering water, searching for fish. So the spinbait 80 in the lighter size, because the 80 comes in 2 weights, the lighter one, that's my core bait. That's the bait that if I could only have one, I'm going to reach for. Now, as far as color goes, we'll get to that in a minute, okay? But that is the bait that I reach for. And in the video description, like every video, I'm gonna link you the baits, the gear, hook replacements, specific rods, and why we use them. We'll link all that in the description below the video. The first thing I will link for you is that spinbait 80 if you could only have one. And I'll give you some color recommendations there. So that bait, that slim profile, that is the core for me. Now, they recently came out with that 70 size. I'm gonna put them back to back here, try and give you a perfect comparison. It's just a little bit smaller. Boy, on a recent trip, I did a lot of damage with the 70 as well. I caught some big ones on it. Now, I have caught countless giants on the 80 size. I mean, truly countless. I've caught so many big fish, and my favorite thing to fish for with them is smallmouth. My second favorite, spotted bass, and then largemouth. But I catch big largemouth on them every time I throw them. I throw them on the Tennessee River. The TVA system, they will eat a spybait, and I'm telling you, no one does it. But every time I've pulled it out and tried it, it works. But reservoir fishing, Great Lakes fishing, clear water fishing, oh my gosh. I mean, it just shines in those environments. So the 70 and the 80, those are my 1-2 punch, okay? The beauty of the 70, what makes this one so special to me is that it's just light enough that we can throw it on bait finesse tackle. I could switch over, throw it on that ultralight bait caster. We'll get to that. It's crazy, crazy fun. So those are the first 2. The third one is from Spro. This is their Spin John 80. So again, 80 sized, but it's just a little bit different bait. The Spin John is a bait that I have trusted for a lot of years. It's got really dark blades on it. It comes with a swiveling line tie on the nose, comes stock with excellent hooks on it. Nothing needs to be upgraded. Same with the Duos, excellent hardware out of the package. I upgrade nothing. This is one of the only topics you will ever hear me talk about where I don't upgrade hooks. All my favorite baits all come with excellent hooks straight out of the pack, which is awesome. The only thing I will do is replace hooks. Duo Realis makes replacement hooks. They make them in a broad range of sizes. And in the video description, again, I'll give you exact sizes for the key baits that I throw. Like, I don't know, I actually haven't even had to replace a size 70 hook yet. It's little, but I can tell you right out the gate without even thinking about it that the 80 size, those are size 8 trebles. I just know that one right off the bat. But in the video description, I'll give you some sizes for some of these key baits. But that is the replacement hook that I use on all of them, regardless of brand. It's a very, very good hook, and it's a sticky, sharp hook. So those 3 main baits, we've got the 2 sizes of the spin bait, the 70 and the 80, and then we've got that Spin John 80. Those 3 baits make up the vast majority of my spy bait fishing. I just find that those long, slender profiles get bit. They just plain get bit day after day. So if I'm going to gamble, that's where I'm gambling. Now from there, you do have some other options, and there's 2 directions we go. We go to like shad shapes, and then we just go bigger. So jumping up to that 90 and the 100, it's just about getting bigger and heavier. So these are going to allow me to fish deeper and or faster. And then of course I'm getting larger profiles. So like when I come to the TVA, when I'm here at home, Chickamauga, Tennessee River, I don't come out here and throw the 70. I throw the bigger sizes, right? The 90 and the 100. That's where I see my success here. So typically with largemouth, I throw the 80 at the smallest and I go bigger. Spotted bass, I tend to focus on the 80 and the 90. Smallmouth, I focus on the 70 and the 80. But it's that simple. It really is. It's just matching bait size. You know, we have a lot of bigger bait fish in the TVA, and I'm not throwing any, you know, giant spy baits. But up to that 100 size is very, very effective. And then the only other thing from there is if you are on a largemouth type fishery, they're shad eaters, you know it, you can get those shad profiles. And I've got 2 for you. One is again from Duo. I mean, they definitely own the spy bait category as a whole. They have their Alpha series, their spin bait Alpha. And it's a much more shad shape, right? Much taller body. And as an added bonus, it's also got larger hooks, just like the 100, or sorry, that's the 90. Just like the 100 size. Come on, sticky, sharp hooks. Much larger hooks than the little guys. So you can throw these on bait casters or spinning. But that Alpha is great because it lets me match the true shad profile. You know, a lot of times bass will get up, they're running shad balls, they're pushing bait, and especially in a place like Chickamauga, a place where fish just take a beating. Fish will come up, they'll come up schooling, right? You throw a jerkbait, you throw a topwater, you throw a glide bait, you name it, you throw it out there and they don't touch it. You're like, how is that possible? But those fish are conditioned, man. They take a beating day after day after day. Well, they don't see a spy bait. And it's amazing, those same conditions, you grab a spy bait, and it's usually not where I start because it's lighter line, it's smaller hooks. If I can avoid that when I hook a giant, I'll avoid it, right? On the TVA, I'd rather hook a big largemouth on some 25-pound line if I have a choice. But if I don't have a choice, next thing you know, I'm out there whipping 6 and 8 pound fluoro. Those fish bite. It's amazing the difference that it can make. And then the one other one is that little baby albino. This is from Nishini. Very similar profile-wise to that Alpha, but it's got a lot more going on. One, the blades are totally oversized. And then it's also got this belly blade that just sort of rocks and just creates flash underneath that bait. Very interesting bait, but the big thing is how big those blades are, right? They're massive. Tim, in particular, has had some really, really good success on that little bait right there, chasing spotted bass. Again, it's spotted bass that are keyed in on shad, matching that taller threadfin type profile. But that is it for for baits. And again, I could eliminate the vast majority of them. The bulk of my fishing is done with that 80 size bait, and then I'll go to Bait Finesse, throw that 70 size bait. If I want to chase them in largemouth fisheries, I go to that big one, I go to that 100. Now, the only other thing to really consider is color, and then we need to talk about rods, because this is one of the places where rods is everything. A lot of times I'll tell you, you know, this is my favorite rod for fill in the blank, but a typical 7.3 to 7.5 medium heavy will do the job, right? This is one of those things where I'm going to show you what I throw, and I'm going to explain why, and I'm talking like that rod has made all the difference in my fishing. It really, really matters with this technique. We'll get to that. Color. The spybait has a lot of movement, but it's subtle movement, right? So when I'm focusing on throwing this bait, I pay more attention to color than I do with a lot of other things. I think color is critical. And I'm gonna go one of three ways. I'm gonna go really natural, really flashy, or really bold. That's it. I always default to really natural. If I don't know if there's a spybait bite, I start with natural colors every single time. That's just my go-to, because particularly in clear water, I know that they will eat them. They just will. Now, the calmer the conditions, because you can throw a spybait anytime. You can throw it when that water is a mirror, and you can throw it when you got big churning white water. My favorite is a chop on the water, just a broken up surface. That's my favorite time to throw the spybait. That's when I've gotten my biggest bites. And I mean, you guys came along recently. We went out and sacked up such a massive bag of smallmouth in a short amount of time. It was incredible. Handful of 5-pounders, a 6-pounder, just pounding them on that spinbait 80. And if you guys remember how just barely skin hooked those fish were, rod was everything. And again, we're gonna get to that. So I tend to start with those natural colors regardless, but especially when it's really slick or just a ripple. The more wind I get on the surface, the result of wind on the surface is broken up light below the surface. So if you've ever been in really clear water, when it's slick, the bottom of the lake also looks like glass. Nothing is moving. When you get a chop on the water, just a little ripple, you'll start to see little wave lines rolling around, shadow lines from the waves on the surface rolling across the bottom. So there's just more movement going on. Even though it's just shadow lines moving, there's more movement. The bigger the waves, the more movement there is in all of the shadow, the bright, the dark, all that rolling around on the bottom. So it stands to reason that the calmer and the clearer, the more you want to stay very, very natural. Non-reflective, non-intrusive, not bold colors. That's your best shot to get bit. The more ripple I get, the more you're going to see me immediately go to those flashier colors. That's because I want to stand out. I want to catch the fish's attention in a world that has movement in it. Now, if I'm on a really good spybait bite, then I will always check the bold colors, be that chartreuse, white, just a bright color. The reason why is just like a jerkbait. Once in a while, they will just go crazy on a bold color. And when they do, it's unlike anything else that you will experience. You're on a good bite and it goes to an incredible bite instantly with a color change. So I always check. But again, if it's calm, I start with the natural colors. If there's chop on the water, I immediately go to those vibrant, flashy colors. I want that light reflecting to show those fish that I'm there, but when they come in and start to track it, I still want them looking at a generally natural profile, even though it's shiny. But then again, if it's working, if it's happening, if I'm catching them, We're bright, we're bold, we're aggressive, because when those fish are fired up and they're willing to chase down and smash, you don't want to blow that opportunity. You want to know about it. It's that simple. It really is. Now, rods. I prefer to throw all of my mid-size spybaits on spinning. Flat out. My little guy, my 70, I throw that on a bait caster. We'll get to that. But I personally prefer to throw them on spinning. The reason why, it has nothing to do with castability. I actually get more distance out of the bait caster. When I go to a proper BFS rod, I can throw it a little farther than I can with my spinning. But what I have found is that this combination is so dialed that I just don't lose fish. I mean, it is so rare for me to have a spybait fish on an 80 size bait come off. I get almost all of them, so much so that when I do lose one, I'm like, it didn't even occur to me that that fish was going to come off, because my gear is so dialed. So the rod from Megabass in the Destroyer line, P5, this is the Flissa. The Flissa is an incredible rod, super soft tip, very absorbent through about the first third of the rod. Then it starts to tighten it up, but it will still flex through 2/3 of the rod. And it's just the right action. Now, I pair it with straight fluorocarbon. I don't do a lot of things on straight fluoro. You guys know that I love braid. But for this, it's straight 6-pound fluorocarbon. That's my setup. And then I'll typically use a 2500 to a 3000 size reel. This is the Shimano X-Sense. Super light, super smooth, casts like a dream, gets me tons of distance. But again, straight 6-pound fluoro with the Flissa, I can load those fish up and I just know that I have them. I can slow play them and I get those fish in the boat. Now, in that recent video where I caught that giant bag of smallies, you know, mid 20 pounds, 4 5s and a 6, and the biggest ones were on the spybait. Every single one of them was skin hooked on the lip with a single hook point. There was just a tiny ripple on the water, and the water was crystal. So the fish, they wouldn't eat anything that I was throwing, but they were willing to eat the spybait, but they would just barely mouth it. They just barely touch that thing, and I'd get them with a single hook point right on that lip, and that was it. And you're talking about a 5 to 6 pound fish going ballistic on a single point of a number 8 treble. And I landed every single one of them. That Flissa is so perfect for this technique. It's incredible. Now, let me set that down. Let's switch gears. Let's talk bait finesse. Because when I switch over to that 70, and you can throw the 80 on bait finesse. So this is from Cashin. This is the 6.8 ultra light, the crazy light rod, right? Just a noodle, just a noodle. And I love throwing that 70 size on it. I have so much fun with it. Again, it's still straight 6-pound fluorocarbon. Tim throws the 80 size on this as well. When I throw the 80, I switch over to spinning. But Tim, this exact same rod, 6.8 ultralight, Tim recently wrecked shop, throwing a spybait, throwing that spinbait 80, same exact rod, 6.8 ultralight, and just, it loads up so deep on those fish. It's a different rod. It's much, much shorter than the Flissa, much shorter, but it loads so deep in the blank, especially combined with that fluoro, that you get the same net result, which is that you can load them so deep that they just can't get it out. As long as you don't horse them, you've got them. And catching them on bait finesse is a riot. It is so much fun. And then last but not least is the larger baits. You need a different rod for that because they have much larger trebles on them. They're still relatively small trebles, but you take that one compared to that one, obviously you need 2 different rods here, right? Again, the majority of my spy baiting is done on spinning. The rod that I've had the most fun with, and it's been recently, Shimano X Pride, so we're not breaking the bank here. It's a mid-priced rod. It's not super budget, it's not super affordable, but it's not outrageously expensive either. Middle of the road, Shimano X Pride rods are bang for the buck, best thing going, and have been for years. It's crazy how good they are for the price. I have that paired up to a Sustain, and the Sustain makes this combo feel incredibly high-end. That combination, incredible sensitivity in the X Pride, super lightweight with the Sustain, amazing drag. That combination, you know, I think I'm throwing a $1,000 combo, even though I'm not. The one thing that I do differently with the big ones, so this is that 610 medium heavy, but it's the solid tip. And I fish this with braid to a leader. That gives me a lot more power. That allows me to plant those bigger hooks into the fish and really load them up. But again, that solid tip, the way this rod loads up, it's a really good balance for those bigger baits. Guys, spy bait fishing is not complicated. I have promised to take a deep dive into this for you. I wanted to do that, but I wanted you to realize that it's not hard. I love to fish it on flats, but there's a lot of other places we throw them. If you count them down, it's really easy. You know, I'll fish in reservoirs. A lot of times we'll fish humps that are like 10 to 25 foot. You just throw it out, open that bail, just let it go. Get it down, close that bail, and then just slow roll. Those fish, these have a lot of drawing power. Those fish will come up and get that thing middle of the water column, no problem. You can throw it in place of top water on schooling fish. If those fish have been harassed, they don't want to chase for you, you switch over to a spy bait, you'll be surprised how many of you can convert, even when they won't eat a lot of other really good baits. The spy bait is so overlooked. You've got a lot of good options, but the concept is simple. The colors are simple. Again, in the video description, I'll link the baits, hook upgrades, favorite colors for each one. Maybe I'll give you a natural, a shiny, and a bold color for every single one of these baits. That's probably the best way to do it. And I'll put all that down there for you, along with the rods and everything. And we'll link that video where we just straight wrecked shop on giant fish doing exactly this. Because once you see that, you see the concept, you see them getting skin hooked and still making it to the boat, it all clicks and you just go from there. It works so well. Hopefully some of you finally get it. It clicks, because a lot of people own a spy bait, right? When they came out, there was a lot of hype. A lot of people bought one. I bought them. They sat for years. I caught some fish on them, but nothing special. And then one day I picked it up and just something happened. I got a good one on it. And then I caught a couple good ones on it. Then I started realizing the when and where it worked in my fisheries. And then when Tim and I started traveling around the country, that's when I realized its true potential, where I saw it work in so many different environments. Really an amazing bait. Guys, I hope this helped you. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.